manager for the U.S. office here. So what we want to do today is I wanted to give you an opportunity to really take a look at what VIA is all about and what VIA is capable of doing. And by doing that, what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of housekeeping right here on the slides in the beginning of the PowerPoint presentation. But then I'm actually going to dig in and show you how to get connected with VIA, how it would look with multiple presenters, some of the features and functions that VIA has and may offer over some of the other wireless products. We know that there is a really, really cluttered market at the moment for wireless solutions. So hopefully we'll give you an idea today of how VIA kind of sets itself apart from a lot of the other products that you do see out in the market. So we're going to just touch on these few things in the beginning, and then, like I said, we're going to get right into a demonstration here and really dig into what VIA is all about. So the first thing is do we understand what VIA is? Well, VIA is a family of products, and it consists of a number of different things. It's first and foremost, it's your wireless connectivity within your meeting space that allows you to connect, not only present content, but actually collaborate with the content you see on the screen and the other users that are in the meeting space. It consists of not only a number of hardware products, a software solution, an enterprise management solution, so that if you deploy a lot of these VIAs across your network or across your campus or around the world, you have a way to manage all of those things. And a couple different accessories that are also built into VIA that allow you to get connected quickly and easily without having to flip too many switches or hit too many buttons, that sort of a thing. So here you just see a picture of the family of VIA. It's actually grown a little bit since we've introduced the products that you see here, but it is four hardware products. Starting with our VIA Go, which is the simplest, going to the Connect Pro, the Campus, and the Collage. And what we'll do throughout the length of this presentation is we'll make sure you have a clear understanding of how each one of these products differs from the others, because what Kramer does do here is instead of just offering a single wireless presentation product, we're offering a family of products. And the idea here is that you're not forced to buy a product that has a number of features and functions that aren't designed for the application that you're looking to fit it in. We'd hate to sell you a product that just exceeds the needs of the space. So what we're going to do here is we've created a platform here that allows you to select the product that best suits the needs of your space. And that's why you see four different products here. And on the left-hand side, you might be looking at those white USB dongs and wondering what those are. That's what we call our VIA Pad. That's a USB device that's designed to quickly automatically connect guest users to the VIA platform. So without having to go and download an application or install something on their computer, they can walk in without knowing anything about the network, without knowing anything about VIA, plug that in, and now they have a physical button they can touch to present and get on the screen. So that's an optional accessory as well. What we're going to be looking at today throughout this presentation is the VIA Campus. I actually have a VIA Campus connected in my office here with a couple other devices connected to it. And the reason I've opted to use the VIA Campus today is because the VIA Campus actually runs on a Windows platform, where some of our other products run on Linux. But the Windows platform, what it allows us to do is it allows us to run and install any third-party application. So I'm actually running WebEx directly from my VIA Campus, and I've invited all of you to join my WebEx meeting. And now, from anywhere in the world, you can see exactly what's happening on the main display in my conference room here. And any one of my presenters or any one of my participants that's sitting in the room here with me can actually present to VIA, and you're going to be able to see that at the other side of the WebEx meeting. So we're taking advantage of the third-party applications that are available to you on the VIA Campus here. And just so you get a good idea of how things are connected here, you know, it is for all intents and purposes a PC running purpose-built software on it. So you see a couple of video outputs, DVI and HDMI, which I happen to be using both in my setup here. But there's really only three connections that are made to my box at any one time. There's a power connection, there's HDMI for my display device, and then there's a network connection. And other than that, you can add peripherals utilizing the USB devices or audio devices, but it is a pretty simple setup. And I always like to show this here. This is exactly how we have it set up in our office here. So we have our VIA Campus sitting on our Kramer network in our office. It's connected to a display device, and I have a number of peripheral devices that are, again, connected to the same wireless network and then can wirelessly present and collaborate to the main display using that same network. The other reason I like to show this is because we made some actually changes recently that actually allow us to utilize a number of different network configurations. And without getting too deep into how we can configure things, I think we made some nice changes. So just to make sure it's clear here, VIA is designed to be integrated into your network. These are not products that are going to create rogue access points around your facility, or if you had a number of classrooms, each one is not going to broadcast its own SSID. It's really designed to be integrated into your network, which makes it easy for your users to get connected to without having to change networks or wondering what network they're supposed to be on. And from a management standpoint, it makes sure that everything is in the same location for simplified management and configuration of these devices. One of the things we've just introduced in firmware that was released last Monday is actually the ability to have these VIA products sit on two networks simultaneously. We always hear the pushback or the complaint that, well, I have a guest network and I have a corporate network, but the two of them don't talk to one another. Well, what we've given VIA the ability to do is utilizing multiple network cards within the device, we can actually physically connect it to two devices. So I'll give you our simplest example, which is our VIA Go. Our VIA Go has built-in Wi-Fi built into the product, and it also has a hardwired LAN connection. You can use either one to get connected to a network, or VIA actually allows you to connect both of them simultaneously. So you can connect the physical connection from one to, let's say, our internal network, and we can connect the wireless of the VIA Go to another network, which means that all of our employees that are on the internal network can connect to VIA using the network that they always sit on. Guest users that come in, whether it's someone we've invited in to make a presentation or anything like that, they can jump on our Kramer guest network. And the VIA is the one that's handling all the traffic to make sure that everybody can present and collaborate simultaneously together. So this is a big hurdle that we've overcome just through a ton of engineering time to make sure that we can allow you to set this up however your network suits it and allow you to get connected from either side. Obviously, there's an IT deployment guide as well. Because we are deploying these onto your network, we want to make sure that we're as transparent as possible and that you know what ports need to be opened, how traffic is going to flow, what are the bandwidth requirements that are going to be needed on my access point, that sort of a thing. It's not super bandwidth heavy, but these are things you need to consider, especially if you're doing a large-scale deployment. So we do have documentation that's designed exactly for this. Okay, at this point, what I'm going to do is I want to jump into the demonstration portion of this presentation, and I know that's why you're all here anyway. You're not here to listen to a PowerPoint presentation. So what I want to do is I want to show you exactly what we have going on in my office here. So if I stop presenting right now, you all should be able to see what looks like the New York City skyline. This is a wallpaper. So this is the HDMI output of my VIA campus. And the reason I tell you that is that's what I'm seeing on the display that's in my office here. So this is a kind of a welcome screen. It can be completely customized to suit the needs of any application. It's just an image, just like a wallpaper image. But you'll notice Kramer includes some information about, if this is the first time you're using VIA or if you've never connected before. Obviously, any of these things can change as well. So the graphic is completely dynamic and it can be adjusted. There are a few things on here that I do want to point out that are specific to this VIA and that will help you get connected. So down in the bottom right-hand corner where you see room name and code, that room name there is unique to this specific VIA. Now, if I didn't give it a name like campus, it would probably be an IP address. And that's the IP address or the name that you're going to use to identify this VIA when you walk into a specific room, or that's the room name you're going to use to get the software application if you've never connected to VIA before. And you'll see it has a couple instructions there. So there's really two instructions. Connect to the network where VIA lives, and enter the room name into your browser. And when you do that, it's going to prompt you to download an application. I'm going to show you how to do that in just 1 second here. So if you bear with me for just 1 second, let me bring my computer screen back up on the display. Okay, so you can see that now, and I'm going to pull up a web browser. And I already did it here, but let's do it for you as well. So if I just type that room name into my web browser, it serves up a page that looks just like this. So again, it's designed to be as simple as possible to get connected. So you have two options, run VIA and install VIA. You know, most of our everyday users, employees here at Kramer, our regular users, they install the VIA application because that means they're never going to have to go through this step ever again. Once you have the VIA application installed on your device, now you can just walk into a room, you enter Campus into the application, and you can get connected just like that. Now, we also have a run VIA option, and this is a great solution for guests because what it does is it allows you to get connected to VIA without having to install anything on your computer. That includes software or device drivers. It allows you to do it without any kind of administrative privileges, and it requires you to do it without any firewall restrictions or hold or anything like that. So this is a zero footprint application that allows your guest users, even if they have no access to their own computer, to get connected and be able to present to VIA. Now, I'm not going to go through this process right now, but you'll notice that if I click Run VIA, it downloads a software application very similar to every other application you've ever downloaded. And when you launch it, it asks you for two things. The two things that it's going to ask you for are your room name or your room code. So let's talk about the types of devices that we can get connected to VIA right now. The product is really as device agnostic as we can make it. So we support Windows computers, Mac computers, iOS devices, both iPads, iPhones, any other iOS device, Android devices, meaning phones and tablets, Windows mobile devices, and also Chromebooks as well. And we can do Chrome through any Chrome extension, which means the Chrome extension can actually be installed on any device that's running a Chrome browser. So a number of different ways to get yourself connected to VIA so that you can participate in the collaboration. Now, the one thing I didn't mention also is VIA also has a iOS AirPlay device built into it as well. So we have an AirPlay receiver built in. So if you have an iPhone or an iPad and you're familiar with how you use an Apple TV, you can actually get connected to the VIA just as if it was an Apple TV. So using the AirPlay receiver that's built into VIA, you don't even have to install an application on your iOS device. You can just swipe up from your control panel, and you can get connected to VIA without having to install any application. I'll just pop that up there real quick just so you can see that. It's asking me for the passcode. And now I have my iOS device that's mirrored to the main display. One thing I'll point out, too, while we're going through this is we are a little bit at the mercy of WebEx. So what you're seeing on the other side might not be a perfect rendition of exactly what's going on in here. When we're presenting to VIA wirelessly at any point in time, we send 25 to 30 frames a second. Now, I know that's probably not what WebEx is sending over the internet and what you might be seeing on the other side, but we do have about 25 to 30 frames per second. So I'm going to turn off mirroring there, and we're going to jump back into to my VIA here. The nice thing about wireless presentation, because you're not connecting a physical cable to the display device and you're not limited to just having one device, is it actually allows you to have multiple people up on the screen as well. So just by bringing another presenter up on the screen, you can see that VIA is going to dynamically adjust my screen for the most amount of screen real estate that's available. So what I mean by that is you're not going to have to pick a quadrant or anything like that. All you need to do is just present to the main screen, and it's going to automatically take care of however many users are trying to present at the same time and allow all that content to be shown on the main display. So it's a good time here to talk about the number of users that can be connected or the number of users that can be presented. On any one of the 4 VIA devices, you can connect up to 254 simultaneous users, which means up to 254 users can be connected to VIA at any point in time. Now, the first place that some of our products might differ from one another is in the number of users that can be presenting to the screen at any one point in time. So I said earlier there's 4 different devices or hardware products that Kramer offers. So now you see I have a third user up there as well. The VIA Go, which is our simplest product, and it's just designed for wireless presentation, allows you to have 2 people presenting to the screen at any point in time. You can still have the same 254 users connected, but 2 people can present to the screen at any point in time. On our VIA Connect Pro, you can have up to 4 users presenting on the main screen at any point in time. And on the VIA Campus and VIA Collage, you can have 6 presenting to the screen at any point in time. The thing that differs also with the VIA Campus and VIA Collage is it has dual outputs, which means on the Campus and the Collage, we can actually drive 2 displays and simultaneously show multiple people, up to 12 people presenting at any point in time. So that is available to us as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my Mac up to the screen here, and I want to give you a couple demonstrations. So the first thing that always comes to question whenever we talk about wireless presentation is video. Video has become so important in meeting spaces, whether it's a YouTube video, a video that's embedded in a PowerPoint presentation, or a video clip that a marketing department might be using for a new advertisement. You know, video is really, really important. So Kramer gives you a number of different ways to actually present video. Obviously, as a user, all I need to do is click the Present button, like you see right here on my screen, and I can bring up a video, any video I want here, and that video is going to be shown full screen on the display. And like I said earlier, it's presented at about 25 to 30 frames a second. So on my display here, you know, I see my video full screen, I hear my audio coming out of my display, but it's playing at about 25 to 30 frames per second. The reason I bring that up is, you know, there's often times where the integrity of that video application or that video itself is really, really important. So what I can do with VIA is I can actually just take that video clip and drag it right into my software. When I let it go, what I see on my screen now is that exact same video clip I saw a minute ago, but now I'm seeing it at full frame rate and full resolution. And you'll notice on my screen, I get transport controls. So what we're actually doing is instead of playing that video locally and screen scraping and sending each frame over the network to the VIA, I'm actually taking that file that exists on my computer and encoding it in real time, sending it over the network, and using the VIA as a decoder on the other side. So I still have all my transport controls, my volume control, I can do all of those things. But the video that I'm seeing on my display now is not just 25 or 30 frames a second, it's the true 60 frames a second that that video was encoded in, and it's the full 1920 by 1080 or 1080p video that exists on my computer. So again, 2 ways of handling video. For your YouTube or your PowerPoint presentations, maybe 25 frames a second is fine. But for that video clip where the integrity is really, really important, you can take that video and drag it right into the software and allow it to encode in real time. One of the things that I love to talk about here, too, is something we just introduced in version 2.2, is the ability to do the exact same thing with YouTube. This has been a really, really big thing for us because we know how important YouTube is. So what we give you the ability to do now is, let's say you pull up a YouTube video. Because I'm presenting here, you know, I can play the video clip directly from my web browser, and it gets played, video and audio, at about 25 to 30 frames per second. But what I can also do is I can take that video clip, just copy that URL directly out of my web browser, bring up my VIA application. I already have it there, so I'm going to just delete it. I'm going to paste that URL right in my path, and I'm just going to call this GoPro. So what I've actually done now is I set up a playlist with all these videos. When I click that YouTube video and click play here, that video is now pulled down directly from the web at its native resolution and native frame rate. So again, now we have a solution for YouTube that allows us to not only present it in 25 to 30 frames a second, but at its native resolution directly from the web. So we built a YouTube player into VIA as well. Again, if you're just the kind of user that just wants to, you know, plug in the cable or click the present button and show your content that way, there's a way to do it really, really simply. If you want to dig in a little bit more, you can use these features to really get good quality video up to your display. So there are really no limitations there. Okay, I'm going to take one step back and give you an idea of exactly what we're looking at on my screen here. So you've seen this red bar that I've been playing with the entire time here. The VIA software is designed to be simple. So what you see when you log in is these 3 buttons across the red bar. The middle one is probably the most important one. That's the one that allows me to start and stop my presentation. So if I click that button right now, you'll notice that the VIA's main display went back to the splash screen. It has the connection information to allow users to get connected. If I or any of my other users click that present button in the middle, I'm immediately placed up on the screen, and my screen is shown to everyone in the room. So any number of users can click that present button and be shown up on the screen. Now, I know you're probably asking yourself, well, that's fine for a meeting space or a conference room where maybe there's a certain level of mutual respect among all the participants. but what about a school classroom or something like that? Moderator mode is something that's able to be enabled on VIA as well. And what that does is it actually establishes two classes of users, moderators and standard users. And if you're a moderator, like a teacher, for example, you have complete control over who has the ability to present anything to the main display. But right now we have it in what we call free run mode, which is great for huddle spaces, great for your conference rooms where someone's not going to interrupt your presentation or anything like that. So let's talk about these other two buttons that are on either side of my present button. The one on the right here is my participants list. So you see it gives me a running list of all the users that are connected to my device. It's for peace of mind. It also gives you a little information. If there's users that are presenting, their display status will show up in red. This is also the place where you can start to dig into a couple of the other features that start to set VIA apart. And that's where we go to next. On the other side of my present button here, I have a features icon. And features is where, VIA starts to get into all the different things and all the different ways that it allows you to interact with all these devices. If all you're looking for is a wireless presentation device that just does screen mirroring from whatever device I have up to the main display, we have our VIA Go, which is, priced accordingly, and it's designed for just that stupid, simple wireless presentation. But as we go up through the family of VIA products, we introduce a number of features that I think you're going to find that are really, really beneficial, especially in these smaller meeting spaces. And that's what we find under this features menu. The other thing I always like to point out here is you have complete control over your VIAs that you deploy or you put out on your network, which means you have the ability to enable or disable any of these features at any point in time. You can do it on the fly. You can do it to a single VIA. You can do it to a group of VIAs. You can do it to all of your VIAs. So what I always like to encourage is, because features can sometimes be overwhelming, especially when we're working with new technology like wireless, is you can turn off some of the features within the VIA user interface. Now, what that's going to do is it's going to do two things, right? It's going to keep your users from getting into places that you decided you don't want them in. And the second thing it's going to do is it's just going to simplify everything. If you turn off all of the features, all they're going to have is the ability to present, so they're going to get comfortable with that. And as they start to ask for more things, then you can get into whiteboarding and view main display and some of these other things. So what I'd like to do now is kind of walk through some of these features, hopefully keeping in mind that all of these features are not going to necessarily be used in a single session, and you do have the ability to turn them off. Because what I want to avoid here is overwhelming you with all the things that VIA is capable of doing, because it really is a fully functional, fully featured device. So I showed you a presentation, which is pretty straightforward. We've also talked a little bit about multimedia. Multimedia is the ability for me to play any of the media that I have on my computer at full frame rate, or any of the media from either a YouTube channel or any other streaming device that might be available on your network. So even if you have a media player or an IP stream or a virtual matrix, VIA can be an endpoint for that. So I can put in, even here, an RTSP or an RTP feed, and it can pull that network stream down from anywhere on the network and open it up in full frame rate and resolution on VIA. So not just wireless presentation, but we also are making this a decoding engine on the back end as well. Now, I'm not going to go quite in order, because there's a way that I like to kind of go through some of these things. The first thing I like to talk about is, how you would actually work in a meeting, right? When you come to a meeting, you normally have a presentation to give. So what you're going to do is you're going to present to the screen, and then you're going to show some kind of content on the main display. So let's say I came to a meeting here, and I opened up an Excel spreadsheet. This is just a demo worksheet that we've used in the past. Come on, Excel, there it goes. So now I have this Excel spreadsheet. Now, I'm coming to the meeting maybe here to talk about sales numbers or something like that. We can have a discussion in the meeting. When we're done with this, I want to share this file with everyone. Now, there's a couple ways to do that. You can put it in Dropbox and share a link. You can try and email it to everybody that was in the meeting. But what VIA gives you the ability to do is, just like I dragged that video in before, I can actually take any file that's on my computer and drag. So here's that worksheet. Drag it directly into the files icon, which you see right here. And when I release it, VIA asks me, do you want to share this file with all participants, or do you want to open it up on VIA? Well, I don't want to open it on VIA right now. I want to share it with all participants. So if I click Share with All Participants, I'm going to bring up one of my other users here. And you'll see that on my other user here, been prompt to download a copy of this file. Now, he's not getting a PDF of the file. He's getting the actual native Excel file that was shared from my other device. So now, not only am I able to present a file wirelessly to the group, I am able to actually share that file with everyone, and they're actually going to get a copy of that file in its native format. Now, where this is really, really useful is in the ability to, let's say you come and you make a PowerPoint presentation. You know, PowerPoint presentations, especially if they have embedded video and large images, can be 200, 300, 400 megabytes apiece. You can't email those. Now, you can throw them up on Dropbox or Google Drive or one of those other places, but now you have to remember everyone's email address that was present at the meeting to share with them. Here, as soon as I'm done with my PowerPoint presentation, I just drag the file into my software, and once I do that, it prompts me to share it with everyone, and everyone receives a native copy of that file. So the cool thing is that there's no file type restrictions, there's no file size restriction. So we have a pretty open architecture that allows you to share whatever files you want. Now, as an administrator, you can limit the types of files that might be shared because we know that could be a concern. But as far as Kramer's concerned, there's really no limitation to the types of files that can be shared. Oops, I apologize. I realized that there may not have been any audio there. I got a phone call on my other device. So let me take a step back here real quick. I'll close out the whiteboard just so we can go back to where we were. All I did was step 3 users in, and directly from the device, any one of the devices, I'm actually able to start the whiteboard. So what I'm going to do is by clicking the whiteboard button on any one of the user interfaces from any one of my participants, what you see on the left-hand side is a number of annotation tools. So I can actually, with my touch screen that's connected to my VIA, come over here and I can grab the pen. I can begin to annotate over top of anything that's on my display device here, actually anywhere on the entire screen. So I can directly interact with the content that I see on the main display. Now, even as a user, depending on whatever device it is that you brought, you can actually participate in that annotation as well. So I know it's probably small on your screens, but what I'm going to do on my computer that's up here in the top left-hand corner is I'm going to choose the Start Collaboration button. And if you watch my mouse, I'm going to take my mouse and just drag it straight up to the top of the screen on my laptop. And you'll notice that it floats right onto the main screen. And now I can come over here and I can grab the pen of any color I want. And I can actually participate in the annotation directly from the MacBook that I brought to the meeting space. Now, I understand that annotation might not be so ideal from a trackpad or a mouse or something like that, but you can use this as a pointer. You can use this for any other number of different things. But it allows me as a user, instead of just being a bystander in a meeting, to actually bring my mouse up onto the main display and actually participate in the annotation that's happening on the main screen. So you see, yeah, there's my other Superman user that's coming up from the bottom there. Again, any one of my users can participate in the content. There's my Windows device that's there as well. So I have a number of different ways to actually interact with that content. And the other thing here is when I'm done with this, I can actually choose to save this and share it with all of my users instantly. So what I've done now is I've actually screen captured everything that we had on our main display, And I've actually shared a copy of that file with all of my users. And I'll give you an example of what I actually captured here. So if I click Save from my Mac device here, I'm going to choose to save it to my desktop. And let me just make that full screen so you can all see that. And what I've got now is, a captured PDF of all the annotations or whatever else it was that we had up on the screen, whether it's compare and contrast or something like that, directly on my own device. So let's take a step back now and think about what we've been able to accomplish so far. We walked into a room. We were able to, without connecting any dongles or cables or anything like that, wirelessly present to the main display. Not only were we able to present content up there, we were able to do some whiteboarding and some collaboration on that documentation and the presentation. And we were able to share a copy of that wirelessly out with all of the users that are connected. So it really is kind of a full cycle of collaboration where you're not just coming to a meeting and just presenting content. You can actually interact with that content as well. And that's where I like to take it to the next step here as well. So what I'm going to do now is, let's say I'm going to go back to this Excel spreadsheet here. So I have this Excel spreadsheet, and as we said kind of earlier in the presentation, let's say we were going over sales figures from 2016, and we had all of these people sitting around a meeting table. I'm the one that has to be the narrator, which means people are either going to call out numbers, and I'm going to have to enter that information into this Excel spreadsheet, or I'm going to pass my laptop around. Well, what I can do with VIA is I can choose to what we call enable control. And what enable control allows me to do is it allows me to share control of my computer with any of the other users that are connected to the session. So I'll give you an example. Let's say one of my other users has some input for this Excel spreadsheet. They can click the Start Collaboration button just like we did before, bring their mouse up, and you'll notice that mouse, again, is on the screen with their nickname. And if they click, they actually have control of the Mac computer that is presenting this Excel spreadsheet. And they can use their own trackpad, their own keyboard and mouse to enter information into the Excel spreadsheet. And we can do this for multiple users at the same time. So there's my Superman user. He can come over here, and he can click in an Excel cell. He can enter some information. So we can do this as a group. So now not only are we just showing an Excel spreadsheet, as a group, we can collectively edit that Excel spreadsheet. And again, when we're done, that file has not left my Mac computer. I can save that. And when we're finished, I can just drag that directly into the software and share that immediately with all my participants again. So now we can bring that Excel spreadsheet back into the meeting. We're all going to leave with the live copy of that Excel spreadsheet, and we're actually going to be able to collaborate on that content in real time while we're doing it. And obviously, the user that has enabled control always has the ability to turn that off at any point in time, and that control is immediately returned to just the user that's presenting, and they can continue with their presentation. There's a few other things that you might have noticed here that we haven't talked about. There's a couple that are pretty straightforward. The chat, obviously, is pretty straightforward. I can choose to click chat. It brings me to my participants list, and I can choose to chat with any of my other users. So if I need to send them a quick URL or ask a question, or, where we see this used a lot is in classrooms, where sometimes, people are afraid to ask the stupid questions, so it's easier to send these to the instructor directly without having to maybe voice it in front of the entire class. That's available to you as well. Third-party applications. So I started to talk about this a little earlier. In the VIA Campus and the VIA Collage, they both run on a Windows platform, which means it gives us the ability to install and run any third-party application you could normally install or run on a Windows computer. So the example that I used earlier was WebEx, because we're using WebEx right now directly from the VIA Campus. And when I share my screen through WebEx, anyone connected to that WebEx meeting anywhere in the world can see exactly what's happening on our main display here. But you'll see it's not limited to just WebEx or a web browser. You could install Photoshop. You could install any proprietary application. We also see it used with Skype for Business quite often. If you like to use the Microsoft suite of Word, PowerPoint, Excel, this can actually be used as an in-room PC because it has the ability to run all third-party applications. And just as we've been showing, the ability to actually collaborate on things will allow you to follow through and use any of those applications that are already installed on VIA directly within this whole process. So third-party applications really extends the physical boundaries of the room itself outside of those physical walls, and it allows you to do much, much more with a collaboration product if the space calls for it. And the last feature you'll see here is this view main display feature. That's not something I'm capable of showing you at this time, only because it won't allow me to present and view the main display at the same time. But what this allows us to do is it allows you as a user with whatever device you brought to the meeting to see that content in real time on your own device. So I'm going to go back to that Excel spreadsheet, but I know we've all been in that application where you sit down in a conference room, someone puts an Excel spreadsheet up, and you're just at the wrong end of a conference room table. Well, now you can, right through the VIA application, click the View Main Display button and actually see a live view of exactly what's happening on the main screen right on your own device. And you can pinch to zoom. What's nice too is you can actually even annotate locally on the view of the main display without affecting anything that's happening on the main screen. So what that gives us the ability to do is, during a lesson or during an instruction, you can actually take notes locally without affecting what's happening on the main screen. And you can take screenshots and capture anything you want during the presentation. So View Main Display is something that's really, really been a popular feature. And we've actually added it to the VIA Connect Pro. It was originally only available on the campus and Collage, but just through firmware, we've actually added it to the VIA Connect Pro. So I know I realized I would give you a pretty clear identification of what the difference of the products are. So let's talk about that for just a second. And actually, there's a chart right here that I'd like to show you that breaks it down for you as well. This is available on our website, and I'd recommend you go take a look at it. It's a little hard to read here. I know it's very small, but this is really just for quick identification purposes. The VIA Go, which is our simplest product, MSRP of $495, all it really is designed to do is wireless presentation. It still gives you 254 users to get connected. It still gives you 1024-bit security, which allows it to be put in secure locations like financial institutions, insurance companies, and that sort of a thing. It allows you to get 250 users connected. It still gives you all the multimedia functionality, like the full frame rate video streaming and everything else, but it's just designed for wireless presentation, and you're limited to 2 people on the screen at any point in time. The VIA Connect Pro is where you start to get into some of the collaboration. The VIA Connect Pro gives you the ability to not only wirelessly present, but it gives you the ability to share files, do the start collaboration, the whiteboarding, the enable control, and the View Main Display. But it's not until we get into the campus or the Collage that we can take advantage of the third-party applications that Windows brings into the mix. So that means having a native web browser directly on VIA that can be used by any one of the users, or installing any third-party application that you can install on Windows. And the last difference is the VIA Collage also has an HDMI input. And what that's often used for is for a document camera or a Blu-ray player, or even just a hardwired HDMI input at a podium. You can actually bring an HDMI input into VIA and have it be one of the presenters on the screen. So you actually have a nice hybrid application there where you can bring wired users and wireless users into VIA at the same time and have that shown up on the main display. Okay, there's 2 more things I want to talk about before we open it up to some Q&A here. The first is VIA Site Management, where VIA Site Management is it's really your command and control for all the VIAs that you've deployed across your network. This is your enterprise management tool that gives you the ability to, let's say Kramer introduces a new firmware, to go to one simple central location and download that firmware and push it out to all of your VIAs. The nice thing is you can group VIAs into individual units, by group, or all. So if you wanted to push firmware to some of your VIAs overnight, you can do that. You can schedule those firmware updates. You also have the ability to visibly see the power status, CPU usage, hard drive storage, all of those things. There's also a lot of back-end settings for you to really customize your VIA experience. All of that can be done within the enterprise management solution to push that out to all of your VIAs or some of your VIAs. So I'll give you a perfect example. Let's say you have a number of VIAs deployed across a campus and you want to change the wallpaper on some of the VIAs in a certain building because you're going to have a guest that day. You can go right into VIA Site Management, select the VIAs you want to change the wallpaper on, upload the wallpaper once, and push it out to all of your VIAs without having to go room to room or log into each individual one. You also have a number of user permissions. So if you have various users across your network that are going to be managing specific vias, all vias, some of the vias, you can really granularly change the user permission to make sure that they're only capable of getting into the features and functions and things that you choose that they're going to get into. If any one of your vias is offline or it's having an issue, it has the ability to send you alerts directly to your email account to let you know that there's a problem. And the last thing that we've added recently is analytics. So you can actually gather some ROI based on the investment that you've made on wireless. And this is a really, really cool thing. What it actually shows you is it starts to show you, okay, I spent X amount of dollars on all of my wireless presentation. I can see which vias are used more often or which ones are never used. I can see what areas are getting the most usage and how long their sessions are lasting. So I can start to gather a lot of information about the investment that I've made and see, let's say, for example, I see that one of my vias has only been used 2 times where the rest of them are used almost daily. I can start to look at that space and try and figure out, well, why is no one using it in this space? Is the heat too high? Is the rest of the technology too old in this room? Is it not working properly? So I can start to do some of those analytics and understanding to make sure that I'm getting the money back that I put into this application. And there's 2 resources that I want to leave you with before I open it up to questions. I believe you're going to receive a link at the end of this webinar for true-collaboration.com. This is really the landing page for all things VIA. If you have a question about VIA or you want to understand something specific about VIA, it's also where I threw up that sheet a little earlier that shows what features and functions are available on each of the devices. That can be found on truecollaboration.com, like you see here. And also Kramer's YouTube channel. I know you can't read this here, but if you go to YouTube and you bring up the Kramer Electronics YouTube channel, we've started to put together, actually we haven't even started, we've been doing it for over a year or so now. We've put together a number of how-to videos for VIA. So I know really quickly, I just went through every feature that VIA is capable of doing, and believe me, there's some that I haven't even touched on. That's a lot of information that came really fast, and we know that. And we know that can be overwhelming to you, even as participants of this webinar, but to users in general. So this YouTube channel is really dedicated towards the end user who wants to learn about VIA. And they're 1 to 2 minute videos about a specific feature. If you want to learn how to share videos or share a file between participants, there's a 45-second video that walks you through every step to do that. You do it once or twice and you can understand it. There's a little bit longer video that talks about that start collaboration and enable control so we can actually have 2-way editing happening on the main screen. So there's videos that are designed for each one of these different features so that they can really get a feel for how they're all working. So that's a great resource as well as True Collaboration, and I really would encourage you to check those out when you're done here or if you have any questions about VIA. So at this point, that's all I have for the prepared part of the presentation, but I know we can open this up to some Q&A, and people may have been asking some questions throughout the webinar. So what I'm going to do now is take a quick look at some of the Q&A or the questions that we've had come in, and we'll address some of those. If for any reason I don't get to all of them, we will send out a follow-up email at the end of this to allow us to address any questions that maybe we didn't get to. So hang on just 1 second here while I pull up the Q&A. Okay, so one of the questions that came through in the beginning, and I think we may have answered this, is I can see you can have up to 3 users on the screen. Can you do 4 or more? So we talked about the differences. You can have 2 on the screen for the VIA Go, 4 for the Connect Pro, and then 6 for the VIA Campus and VIA Collage. But you can also utilize 2 displays on the Campus and Collage, which gives you double the amount of real estate and actually up to 12 users on the screen at any point in time. So we talked about, someone also asked about a comparison chart. That's been made available on True Collaboration. A couple questions about that. Okay, good. Oh, somebody actually brought up a great point. So last Monday, we introduced the new version firmware 2.2. And in that, we introduced a number of new features. I talked about some of them here, but what we didn't talk about is one of the things that through just a firmware update, we gave the VIAs the ability to be a digital signage engine when they're not in collaboration mode. So what you normally see when a VIA is just sitting idle is a static wallpaper that tells you how to get connected. Well, we thought there was better use of that screen when VIA was not being used as a collaboration device. So what we built in was a scheduling and digital signage engine. So VIA is smart enough now to know when it's not being used for collaboration, and it immediately kicks over to a scheduled playlist that you can put video clips in there, you can direct it to web pages, you can put text crawl on there. So the same functions you'd normally expect to get out of a digital signage engine are all built into VIA now. So you have that VIA Go that you might have in a huddle space that's kind of in a public area. Well, instead of it just being a static image, now it can actually run a digital signage schedule based on whatever you determine and whatever you decide should be running at certain times throughout the day or certain days of the week or whatever else, while it's not in use as a collaboration device. And one of the coolest things, too, is that can all be determined from VIA site management. So if you had a campus full of VIAs and you had a group that was dedicated to huddle spaces and you have a number of VIAs spread out with visible displays all day long, you can push the schedules and playlists and content directly to them from VIA site management. So VIA is really performing double duty at this point to give you a second usage of VIA when it's not in use as a collaboration device. There's a couple other things that also came with that new firmware update. It was the dual network and the YouTube streaming, which are really big things. The last thing I'll mention, too, about the new firmware version is we finalized e-polling in our VIA Campus and VIA Collage offering. What that means is, you have a number of students that are connected to VIA through the VIA client. Teachers can actually manage and push polling questions out to the students, and they can either see the results live on the display, they can see them directly on their own device, the results can be hidden, and all of this is actually cataloged in a database on the back end that can be managed by the instructor later. So e-polling was built into VIA also. Someone here asked a question about VIA site management. I think they're asking if it can be run in a virtual machine or if it has to be run on a separate server. We do recommend that VIA is run on its own server, but it can certainly be virtualized. The only reason we want VIA site management to be run on its own server is because it uses a lot of databases and a lot of services that if we don't know what else might be installed on that server, it could actually cause a conflict or something like that. But it can be virtualized, so you can run up a virtual machine and install VIA site management on that. A couple questions about the versions of Windows that are installed on the VIA Campus. On the VIA Campus, we have Windows 10, which is installed on the device, and the VIA Collage actually runs Windows 7. So there are differences in the operating system that's running on the two devices, but they do run Windows 10 and Windows 7 respectively. A couple questions about resolutions and aspect ratios supported by VIA. Great question, which I didn't mention or didn't discuss in the presentation. The VIA Go and the VIA Connect Pro support up to 1080p. The VIA Campus and VIA Collage will support 4K. There was a question about additional license fees for digital signage. That is an add-on license, so there is a charge. I don't know if they've finalized pricing for it yet. I'm going to ballpark and say it's around $50. It's a one-time license fee that you pay per unit. And you don't have to buy it for all your units. If you've deployed 1,000 different VIAs around your campus, you can buy this for the 50 huddle spaces or something like that. But there is a nominal charge that goes along with digital signage, so that's available to you as well. I think that's about it for all the questions that we have here. So if there's no other questions, I'm going to wrap it up here and just thank you all for joining me this afternoon. In about 2 weeks on August 15th, we're actually going to be doing a Facebook Live, if any of you are familiar with that. We're going to be doing an open Q&A with myself and a couple other people here at Kramer. So if you're on Facebook or if you're subscribed to our Facebook account, please do join us for our Facebook Live. We're going to have an open Q&A. Feel free to bring any questions you may have to us at that point in time. But again, thank you for joining us this afternoon. And if you have any questions, you can reply to the email as soon as the webinar concludes here. Again, my name is Matt Copen with Kramer Electronics, and thanks again for joining us today.